What's good, everybody? It's the Clown of a Cab Show. Super Bowl 57 was iconic. It was amazing. Even though I picked the Philadelphia Eagles to win it outright, I was wrong. Shout out to the Kansas City Chiefs. Shout out to Patrick Mahomes with his second Super Bowl in 6 seasons. We have to realize Patrick Mahomes is that star player. He is that it factor. He's that guy to really take over now since Tom Brady retired. I think Patrick Mahomes is the future of the NFL. He's the face of the NFL. Shout out to the Kansas City Chiefs. I just think overall they just outplayed the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'm looking at the Eagles and thinking, what? What are you guys thinking? They led the NFL in sacks this season, and then all of a sudden come to the Super Bowl. They don't even sack Mahomes on a bummed ankle. To me, it was just like, how? How's Philly going to do this? Yeah, Philly came out great in the first half. They're up in the first half, coming in the second half, feeling good. Even though Kansas City gets the ball at second half, then all of a sudden, everything changes for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think a huge momentum shift was definitely when Jalen Hurts fumbled that ball, and we saw Kansas City scoop and score for the game, or not for the game, but for a momentum shift to really tie the game up. To me, that was huge. And I was looking at Jalen Hurts and thinking, what is going on? It was a non-contact fumble. He literally fumbled it as he was switching to his other arm, and then he got tackled. It was just like, I don't know. Was the pressure too much for Jalen Hurts? I'm not going to criticize him that much. I mean, he played a great game. 3 rushing touchdowns in the Super Bowl, tied the Super Bowl record for 3 rushing touchdowns. I mean, he balled out. I mean, he had 304 yards passing with a touchdown as well. I can't just, minimize him just from that one fumble, but that was it. I think if Jalen Hurts doesn't fumble right there, we're talking a completely different game, and I think Eagles end up winning this game, but we could do the what-if game, but at the end of the day, it was all Kansas City in the second half, and we saw Patrick Mahomes, dude, it's crazy. 182 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. He did have a big run in the second half as well, where it's just like Mahomes just, gave it everything, put his heart and soul on the line and said, I'm not going to give up. I understand we're down. I understand we're underdogs in this game, but you know what? We're going to battle back and win this game, and that's exactly what they did. Travis Kelce, 81 yards receiving and a touchdown. Isaiah, the rookie running back for Kansas City, he stepped up as well with the touchdown, 76 yards rushing, and it was all Kansas City, and we saw Kansas City step up and just continue to make plays. And I think Philly, man, they were just kind of, really in the second half, they came out flat. And I was thinking, this is the time for Philly to step on them and really end the game. End the game before the fourth quarter even starts. But no, that didn't happen. And then a lot of people want to bring up the pass interference call, the last drive of the game when it was tied 35-35 on James Bradbury, which, he even came out. James even came out and said, look, it was a pass interference. I did held him. I held him on before the 5 yards. And I was just like, why did he even have to hold him? You're going against Juju Smith, which respectively, he's an okay receiver, but let's be honest here. Juju's not even in the top 10 best wide receivers in the game today in 2023. So I'm thinking, I'm looking at James and saying this was a huge mistake. That cost him the Super Bowl here. Because if he doesn't hold him, that's an incomplete pass. Mahomes overthrew him. And I think, it's 38-35. And then you got Jalen Hurts still with some time left, to work with, even to go into overtime. But, it is what it is, and I'm looking at the refs and thinking, they didn't call it really all game. Then all of a sudden they want to call it in the last play, on the last possession, arguably. And I'm thinking, how? Why is the ref, if now all of a sudden they're going to switch it up? That's the only problem I had with it. If they were going to call that call him in the first half as well. Call him in the second half. There were some plays where, both sides, both offense and defense, for Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts, they didn't get the ball off in time. The play clock hit 0, yet they still snapped it, and a flag was not thrown. And that happened many times this Super Bowl, and I'm thinking, I'm looking at the refs and saying, why? If the play clock hits 0 and the ball's not snapped yet, that's a 5-yard penalty, and it wasn't thrown numerous of times. 3+ times this Super Bowl, and I'm thinking, you can't do that. You cannot have that. You can't. But at the end of the day, Kansas City won because of who? Patrick Mahomes. That's why they won, and they just put it on him. And I'm looking at the Philadelphia Eagles defense, and they just didn't show up. A lot of sacks over the season. Really the top 3 defenses in the league, and you're going to come out and give up 38 points, and you're only averaging 7. Teams are only averaging 7 against you. Now all of a sudden comes Super Bowl 38. Hey, Kansas City's going to put 38 on Philly. I would have laughed at you last week if you would have said that. Maybe 31 at tops. But I was shocked, dude. I really was. Devontae Smith, 100 yards receiving for the Eagles. A.J. Brown, I told you guys to go with the over 100 yards. He had 96 yards and a touchdown. I was really upset on that, but just looking at it, there were so many. I mean, it's the Super Bowl. It's for everything. One little mistake, just like I said with the James Bradbury PA call, pass interference call, the PI call. It was just like, hey, it was the right call, but they just didn't call it all game, but it was the correct call. He did grab Juju. He did grab him on his waist. So, we're looking at him and looking at Philly and saying, man, I was a sucker to go Philly. I was a sucker to go. I really was. I saw Philly all year this year, and they just been dominant on both sides on both sides, defense and offense, even special teams. But they got outplayed, not offensively, defense and special teams. The Kansas City Chiefs outplayed the Eagles defensively. Who would have thought that? Who would have thought that? Even on special teams, which is crazy. But a lot of the Super Bowl things, the Super Bowl commercials were great. Shout out to Walter White and Tuco one time for Breaking Bad. That was a great commercial. But a lot of the game, the Super Bowl prop bets, like I said, the opening coin toss, heads or tails. It was tails, which is crazy. I always typically go heads. I really do. And then another one was, what color Gatorade will be poured on the winning coach? And we saw Andy Reid, the color Gatorade. I said orange. It was purple, which is one of my favorite Gatorades as well. So, shout out to that. It was great. It really was. Chris Stapleton's national anthem was the under by like 2 seconds, dude. I definitely thought it was the over. That was probably the longest national anthem I've ever seen in Super Bowl history. I don't know how it still went with the under. That's crazy. It really is. So it's amazing. The Super Bowl is for everything. Looking at Philadelphia Eagles coming this offseason, it's going to be a long, long offseason for Jalen Hurts. Look at drawing it up right now. I'm not going to give up on Jalen Hurts. I do believe that he can lead Philly back to the Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl. I really do. Jalen Hurts has the talent. He has the mindset. I really do. I just think around him, they got to surround better players. They need better cornerbacks for sure. I just think, Philly got torched. Their corners got torched. They look like JV players against varsity. It was just sad, dude. It was just like, how are you guys going to get outplayed like this? Really? So I think Philly needs to go defense for sure. Now, for the Kansas City Chiefs, second Super Bowl for Mahomes in 6 seasons. Coach Andy Reid, this is great. You guys won a Super Bowl in 2021. You lost in 2022. Or you lost in 2021 against Tampa. They won in 2020. Now, all of a sudden, a year and a half later, they win in 2023 this year. It's amazing. And Patrick Mahomes, he is the face of the NFL as far as I'm concerned. You guys can say what you want about Patrick Mahomes, but at the end of the day, he has 2 Super Bowl championships. He has tied Eli Manning and Peyton Manning for Super Bowls. Same thing with Big Ben as well. It's amazing, dude. And Patrick Mahomes is still relatively young right now. Only 6 seasons in the NFL, and he's putting up these crazy numbers, balling out every single game. So I think Kansas City right now, they're sitting nice. Going into the NFL draft in April, I do think Kansas City needs to get some better receivers for Mahomes. I really do. Juju Smith is not the guy, I'm telling you. But I think overall, they need to go defense as well. That's where Kansas City needs to go. But what are the chances for Kansas City even going back to the Super Bowl? It is obviously a long shot right now, but I think looking at it, just looking at eye test, I think, Kansas City should be the AFC favorites. They really should. I mean, who's going to dethrone Patrick Mahomes? It's going to have to be Joe Burrow. That's the guy. I think, we look at Joe Burrow, and I think he can also be the face of the NFL as well. Same thing with Patrick Mahomes, which he already is. He's already won 2 Super Bowls. Whereas Joe Burrow, he lost in the Super Bowl last year in 2022, and I think Joe Burrow is that next cat. My dark horse team right now, just out of the blue, is definitely the Cincinnati Bengals to win the Super Bowl in 2024. That's my outright pick right now. I just think Joe Burrow is one of the best pocket passers in the NFL today, and he's young, dude. So I think, for the Bengal fans, for Joe Burrow, they should be feeling great. But for Kansas City, man, this is great, dude. This is great for the city. This is great for the state of Missouri. I just think overall, Kansas City, they came out and they were underdogs. They were definitely underdogs, but we could all agree that they're not the better team here. That's why I picked Philly, because Philly was the better overall team. They really were all year up until the second half of the Super Bowl, which is crazy, you know. And we saw the halftime show. Shout out to Rihanna. You know, I like Rihanna, but I don't know. Was it the best Super Bowl halftime show we've ever seen? No, it really wasn't. I honestly thought Bruno Mars was better, and I didn't think Bruno Mars was that good. It obviously was not near as good as last year's with you know, Dr. Dre, Snoop, 50. It just wasn't the same. But shout out to Rihanna doing her thing, and I believe she's pregnant, so shout out to Rihanna for stepping up and just doing her thing. So shout out to Rihanna, but at the end of the day, man, the Super Bowl, it comes down to inches, and really one mistake is all it takes. And we saw that against Philly, and I almost cried. I really did. I almost cried when they called the pass interference call, and I'm just like, really? They're going to call it at this magnitude right now in this game? And it goes to show you the NFL has power, and most of the power goes to the referees. They can control the game. You know, this ref could have said, you know, hey, it's a little ticky-tack call, but I'm not going to call it. You know, I want this game to proceed, but hey, he threw the flag, which was the right call. I just think it was a little ticky-tacky. It really was. If this was basketball, it would have been like a light foul. If that, you know what I'm saying? Just a light foul. Okay, maybe a play on. You know, back in the 80s and 90s, that would have been a play on. That would have never been thrown. You know, it's just a different game, different society. But I think right now, are the Kansas City Chiefs a dynasty? Are they a dynasty? I think if they win one more Super Bowl, 3 Super Bowls, I do. I think they're a dynasty. Only 2 right now. But, you know, eventually, I think if they do win in the next 2 years, Kansas City is definitely a dynasty team. Absolutely, dude. With Patrick Mahomes, I mean, if it wasn't for Tom Brady, dude, Patrick Mahomes right now would have 3 Super Bowl rings. 3. I mean, dude, he's almost halfway from Brady, dude, which is crazy. But right now, I feel like he's the potential to tie Brady with 7. It's a long shot. I mean, he has to win 5 more Super Bowls. Like, that's tough. That's just no walk in the park like, oh, yeah, he's going to win 5 more, in the next, 7 years, 8 years. But it's just hard to tell. I just think they need better players around them. And I honestly thought, when Kansas City released Tyreek Hill last season, I thought, oh, man, that's a huge mistake. I did not see that coming. But they, at the end of the day, I don't think Tyreek Hill is replaceable. But, Kansas City said, we're going to replace him and just fill him in. And we know that Isaiah's same number as Tyreek Hill, number 10 for Kansas City, a rookie out of Maryland. He stepped it up. And I think he was one of the main guys why they won in the AFC Championship game against Cincinnati. He had some big runs. And even in the Super Bowl, he scored that touchdown. He had some big runs as well. He's just an energizer bunny, this guy. So I think shout out to Isaiah. That's huge. It's huge for me. But back to Jalen Hurts, there's nothing to hang your hat on. I understand he did have one mistake. That's it. But he literally played a great game besides that one fumble. So I think for Jalen Hurts, this goes back to the X's and O's and back to the drawing boards this offseason, and he's only going to get better. And I think, Jalen Hurts can get better in the pocket a little bit and not scramble as less. Same thing with Mahomes. I think both these quarterbacks are so young right now, and I think, I believe in Jalen Hurts. I do think he'll be back. Yes, I understand, in Bama, he did get benched. All this stuff, but at the end of the day, he was literally a couple plays away from winning a Super Bowl. And that's what it comes down to. And that's why football is a game of inches. All it takes is one bad inch, and that's it. And we saw that. We saw, James Bradbury, the PI call. That's it, dude. One mistake is all it takes in the Super Bowl. So shout out to the Kansas City Chiefs, man. I can't wait till the NFL season starts back up in September. It's a great season this year. It really was. Obviously, my Indianapolis Colts were trash. They didn't do anything, okay? They're definitely not going to do much this year either. But I think looking at the season coming up in 2023, 2024, another great NFL season. I mean, the NFL, huge business in America, probably the best sport in America, the most watched sport in America. So I think, the NFL, they're going to continue to make millions, and they're going to continue to win while the players are going to risk their lives. I mean, that's how it is. That's how it is, and the masses watch it, and they love it. They love the big hits. They love just everything about it. So I think the NFL is continuing to grow, especially in the Super Bowl. But I'm telling you what, right now, Kansas City Chiefs, Do not sleep on him. And Patrick Mahomes is the face of the NFL right now. He is the Steph Curry of the NFL. Now, do you guys feel me on that, please? Because I definitely do. You know, Patrick Mahomes, Steph Curry, they play similar styles. They're so smooth. They somehow get it out. And Mahomes somehow gets out of the sack. And we see Steph Curry gets double teamed, throws up a three, and hits it. I could see that so much. Patrick Mahomes, Steph Curry, they're so similar. So, you know, shout out to Patrick Mahomes on another Super Bowl. Let's go. It's the Clouded with Cam Show.